Hello everyone, welcome back again to the Education Diary, day number 2 of the IoT. And I hope so everyone is fine. This is something we are going to start again because of some misconfigurations. Let's start, right? So today we are going to be introducing from what devices we are having. We are going to have the Arduino Uno. So here as you can see, I'm using up my Arduino Uno machine. So universally this kind of circuit is majorly being used in IoT, right? Now here you can see it's written Uno, but you can actually go and check on for the Arduino Leonardo or Arduino Mini or Arduino Nano. So we are having tons and tons of different chipset which you can actually use and go on. But this is majorly and universally being used Arduino chipset. Apart from that, we are also having the breadboard. So yesterday, if you remember, we are having something which is known as breadboard. And if you remember, I told you one thing that all the vertical holes and all the horizontal holes basically have what? Electric supply. So suppose if I'm going to insert one pin on this hole, so it is going to be having power supply horizontally as well as vertically. Alright, apart from that, you can see we are having a red line here, which actually tells us that yes, this particular slot is going to be having live connection, that means electric supply. And the blue line basically tells us about the negative or neutral. Alright, so whatever the holes we are having here, it basically tells us ground, right, or a neutral cable connection. Sometimes this is basically used in ground. And this plus basically tells us what? We are having a live connection. Alright, so this is something which is really important to understand about breadboard. Apart from that, we are also having a DHT11 sensor. So if you remember, so we basically had discussion about this sensor. So today we are going to be using this sensor and we'll show you that how easy it is to configure any kind of sensor. So here, as you can see in DHT11, we are having 3 pins. This is first, this is second pin, which is a middle, and this is the third pin. And above each pin, it is written like what it is basically being used for. So the first pin is basically having VCC written, which actually means a 5-volt connection. The middle pin actually tells us the data pin, which can be used in the digital pin in the Arduino Uno. The third pin is basically the GND pin, which actually tells us that yes, it's a ground pin, right? So we are having 3 pins in this sensor, and we are going to be configuring this sensor and going to connect this with our laptop. All right, it's going to be really easy. It's not going to be very difficult how to configure and everything. Now what I can do is I can simply show you my computer screen as well. Let's go to the computer screen. So here, as you can see that I'm having up my computer screen already working on. And as I told you that yesterday, we are going to be using ChatGPT to configure to make our Arduino working. What I can do is I can simply run for the Arduino. I can simply search this. For configuring the Arduino kind of sensors, devices, we have to go and download the Arduino. Right, I told you that this is something which is going to be working. Now here, as you can see, we are having an Arduino website, and we are going to be having Arduino software, and we are having tons and tons of blogs actually you can go and you can study on. All right, so what I can do is I can simply go back, and here we are having Arduino IDE for Mac OS. I'm using Mac, but based on your operating system, you can actually go, and from here we can go to the download page. Now here we are having Windows version, we are having Linux version, and Mac OS. I'm using Apple Silicon version, so I'm going to be downloading this. I'm already having this, right? But for you, actually, you can download based on what you want. So once actually you are having your Arduino, now here is the Arduino IDE interface. Let's close this. I was just working here. Let's close the Arduino so that I can show you since starting. Once if I open up the Arduino Uno, so this is something going to be your first interface. Now, before proceeding forward, let me just go back to my device section. And here you can see that I'm having my Arduino Uno. So what I can do is I'm simply going to connect this with my cable. All right. So basically I have to connect my Arduino Uno with a cable, and this is a USB. So I'm simply going to connect this Arduino with my laptop. So once if I connect this, you can see we are going to be having our Arduino working. So it's basically having a green light and we are having an orange light, which actually tells us that yes, your Arduino is basically being connected with your computer and it's good to go. All right. Now, if I go back on my Arduino software, so here, as you can see, I'm going to be having a pre-default code, which is written here. All right. Now here, there is an option select board. So if I'm going here, I'm going to select Arduino Uno as my board because I'm using Arduino Uno. But yeah, if you're going to use Arduino Leonardo or any kind of thing, so it can basically show you that yes, it is going to come here. The name is going to be coming here, Arduino Leonardo, Arduino Nano, whatever. So I'm using Arduino Uno, so it is already telling me that yes, Arduino Uno is basically I have to select. Second step is going to the tools. You have to go to the port. Now this is important. Second step is going to be selecting your port, which is going to be used by using your Arduino. So here you can see that this is Arduino Uno port name. I have to select this as well. Now everything is fine. Now the third thing which you have to do is this is a pre-default code which we are going to upload in our Arduino machine. So simply I'm going to click on the very first icon, which is the verify. Now if I click here, so you can see that we are getting a message done compiling and everything is fine, right? No kind of error. Second is going to upload the code, which is the arrow key. So uploading, done compiling and done uploading, everything is fine. No kind of error. So that means our Arduino is working really fine. But if you somehow get any kind of error, right? So if you get any kind of error, so make sure to restart your computer. And after that, your issues can be resolved easily. Now, once again, if I go to my Arduino, or let's check the code first of all. I'm using ChatGPT. I'm using a DHT11 sensor, and here is my command. I am using DHT11 sensor with Arduino Uno. Tell me the wiring steps by steps and also the Arduino code. Now, first of all, you should have these components, which we already have, which is the Arduino Uno, DHT11 sensor, breadboard, and the jumper wires. Second is basically connect the VCC pin. As I told you that in our sensor, we are having 3 pins, right? One is the VCC pin, one is the GND pin, and one is the data pin. So if you remember, our sensor is having 3 pins. And we are basically being instructed that connect your VCC pin of the DHT11 sensor to the 5V pin on the Arduino Uno. So simple commands. Now second step is connect the GND pin of the DHT11 sensor to the GND pin on the Arduino Uno. The data pin connected the DHT11 sensor to the digital pin too. Right? So it is basically telling us all the things, all the wirings which we have to do. Pretty easy. Now after that, what it's telling us is that go to the sketch, include library and manage library, go and search for the DHT sensor library in the Arduino software and make sure it should be by the Adafruit unified sensor, right? So this is important because the libraries are important. So what I can do is I can simply go to my Arduino software. I can go into the sketches, include library, manage libraries, and here I can search for DHT11. So as soon as I search, now you are going to be watching, we are having tons and tons of different libraries by DHT11. What we can do is we have to search by Adafruit. Now here you can see DHT sensor library by Adafruit, which the GPT was actually telling us. Now if you are going to installing all the libraries, so your Arduino may not work because the important library is this one, not the others. And sometimes if you're having certain libraries having same functionalities, it is going to create a problem for you to run the code. So make sure to have this, right? Don't install any other thing. All right. Now after this, everything is fine. Let's go to an Arduino machine and configure the device. It's really easy. So here what I'm having is I'm having up my Arduino DHT11 and I'm having up my jumper cables. So according to the GPT, it is telling us that make sure to connect your VCC pin, which is this one. I'm connecting this VCC pin to the 5V on Arduino. So we have to search for 5V, and once it's done, so make sure to insert up your pin in the VCC. All right, so simple wiring. Second, it's telling us to connect your GND with the GND on the Arduino Uno. So let's search for GND on this sensor. So here we are having GND in the first slot, and we have to connect this with a GND where in our GND on Arduino. So here you can see that the sensor is having a light right now, which is telling us that yes, everything is working really fine. You are good to go, so you can proceed. All right, the third thing which it is telling us is to connect our data, which is the middle pin of our sensor. So you can see I've connected 3 pins on my sensor to the digital number 2. So it's going to be here. Now all the different numbers, all the different information has been written on Arduino. So you can see it is written -6, -5, 4, -3, 2, 1, 0, 5, V, GND, means everything is written on Arduino Uno board. You don't need to worry. You just need to you need to just check out which connection is from which two pair, right? So it's really easy to configure the devices. Once it's done, and we are basically going to use our code, which the ChatGPT gave us. We are going to upload the code into the Arduino Uno machine, and hence we are going to be working really easily. So let's go back to our Mac screen. We are going to be having a code, library has been installed, the devices has been connected. What we can go to the Arduino Uno. We are simply going to paste our code here. First, we are going to verify the code if the code is working fine and if the code is proper. If it's done compiling, we are going to upload our code from here and everything is working fine. So it's uploading, done uploading, right? So everything is fine. Right now, my Arduino is also working properly. So let me show you my Arduino. So here you can see it's my Arduino and the code has been uploaded in my machine. Now, how we can see what is the temperature and humidity, because this sensor is basically used for what? Temperature and sensor, or temperature and humidity sensor, right? So let's go back to our Mac screen. And if I go into the Arduino Uno, so here as the last you can see we are having two options, serial plotter and serial monitor. If I click on the serial monitor, so you can see that yes, we are having humidity 39%, temperature is around 28 degree and heat index is 81 degree Fahrenheit. So now this sensor is going to be working after 2 seconds or 3 seconds of interval. So here you can see in our code it's written reading temperature or humidity blah 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 in 250 milliseconds to almost 2.5 seconds. So after every 2.5 seconds, this index is going to be refreshed, right? And you are going to be having up your display of the temperature, humidity, and heat index by using the DHT11 sensor. Now you are having tons and tons of different sensors, which can be IR, if you remember infrared sensor. We are having the speakers, we are having the motors, we are having some thermal sensors. So we are having tons and tons of sensors. Based on the sensor, you have to understand that what type of configuration is needed, what type of wiring is needed, and everything is going to be working really easily. Now again, for the Mac, sometimes you may feel encounter, but make sure to select your first of all port number, because these two options are really important. And the third thing is going to be managing your library. So if you're not having a library by default, so make sure to have a library, right? Without library, your Arduino is not going to be working, right? So there are tons and tons of applications by using the Arduino. Now we can basically go and we can actually, this particular different form of sensors can be used in hacking and everything like that. So yeah, it's something which is which depends on your creativity and how actually you think. Now if I go back to my sensor, so you do remember, like yesterday I told you that this particular board Arduino Uno is not having a Wi-Fi module, right? So suppose if I want to, now of course I can see the humidity and temperature in my laptop, but what if I want to see the humidity and temperature if I am in India by checking up my mobile, right? So if I want to check the humidity somewhere else, because it's not having a Wi-Fi module, we have to use a different form of Arduino chipset. We are not going to use Arduino Uno, we are going to use what? Node MCU, right? So we can basically go and use Node MCU, and the other thing we can use is the ESP8266 in order to configure our Arduino Uno so that it can connect to Wi-Fi in our room, and then we can actually see the humidity and temperature in my mobile application. Now that is something of a very long process, a very advanced process, but it's not very difficult to do. All right, because for that we need Node MCU, or we need to connect this with the ESP8266 Wi-Fi module, which is really hard and really a headache problem. But yeah, overall this is the general idea. Now what is a breadboard? Of course, if you remember, I can basically use a two-side pin and then I can connect this kind of pin. Like suppose if I take orange pin and I connect on my breadboard, and I'm going to place up this sensor in the breadboard. So suppose if I remove this and if I take only up my sensor here, so what I can do is I can simply place this inside my breadboard. All right, so it's done. Now what I can do is I can take the same cables and everything and I can make the same connection. So let's do that. So if you remember, only one fundamental thing is that the vertical as well as the horizontal dots basically give the power supply, right? So first of all, we need the wires which are having two side pin, right? So here you can see I'm having a wire which is having two side pin, and the single mantra was to connect the vertical dots, right? So here if it is having this pin, so we have to connect a wire here and vice versa. So the first pin is basically the GND. So let's take a GND on the breadboard and connect this wire with the GND on Arduino Uno. Now again, this is something more like hectic. Otherwise, if you have a different form of cables, like one side is the head side and one side is the another pin side, so it's going to be really easy. But using this is kind of like having more and more wires, right? So this is the second wire. I'm going to take the data pin. So I have to connect the data pin with the digital pin too. So if you remember, the configuration is something like that. So it's really hard. So you can see I have to connect in each and every pin. So number 2 and number 3 was basically again the VCC to 5V, and after that our Arduino is going to be working again. So let's take a wire. I think so this should be fine. So take 5V and connect it with the 5V. Our sensor is working, right? So this is the same connection, right? What I'm just giving is I'm just giving it a power supply through the breadboard. It's same. So in front of every pin I have installed a wire, and that's it. So it's going to be working really same. So what I can do is I can again go to my Mac screen, and here you can see fail to read to DHT sensor because I disconnected my sensor. And after that, once again, if I configure, so it's working in the same and like almost same way. There is no change. All right. So if you're using breadboard, so breadboard is basically used for multiple connections, for multiple sensor connectivity. But if you're using a single sensor, so you can actually go with your normal wires, and it's going to be much more easy. All right. So yeah, if I'm going to place up this sensor in my refrigerator, so you can see that the temperature is going to be low down, the heat index is going to be low down, humidity is going to be low down. But as usual, I'm not going to do that. But overall, you can get the view, right? That how easy it is to use the sensors. And yeah, so if you do have any questions or if you do have any doubts, so make sure to send an email to the education diary. And if you want to go for this course, so you can actually get certification in IoT as well from the education diary. And if you do have any problems, so make sure to comment down so that we can reply, and meet you next week for the next webinar. Till then, take care guys. Bye bye.